What happens after 10 years in an avoidant marriage? What happens after 10 years in an avoidant marriage is rarely dramatic on the surface, but internally, it is seismic. In the beginning, the distance didn't look like danger. It looked like independence. Strength. He just needs space. She's not very emotional. Over time, though, that space hardens into silence. According to attachment theory developed by John Bowlby and later expanded by Mary Ainsworth, avoidant attachment forms when emotional needs are consistently dismissed or minimized. So after a decade in marriage, what you often see is not explosive conflict, but chronic emotional malnourishment. Conversations become logistical. Intimacy becomes scheduled, mechanical, or quietly non-existent. One partner slowly stops reaching. The other slowly stops noticing. And the most painful part? Both often feel alone, together. As Esther Perel says, the quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life. After 10 years in an avoidant dynamic, that quality is defined by subtle rejection. The avoidant spouse may pride themselves on being calm, rational, unbothered, but beneath that composure is usually a deep discomfort with vulnerability. Psychologically, avoidant partners deactivate attachment needs. They suppress longing to maintain control. But suppression isn't healing, it's postponement. Over a decade, the emotional gap widens. The anxious-leaning partner may become hypervigilant, constantly scanning for signs of warmth, approval, or withdrawal. They may overfunction, doing more, asking less, hoping stability will earn closeness. Meanwhile, the avoidant partner may feel increasingly criticized or suffocated, even when no one is attacking them. It becomes a cycle. The more one pursues, the more the other distances. 10 years in, resentment replaces hope. Small disappointments accumulate like dust in a locked room. As Carl Jung said, what you resist not only persists, but will grow in size. The avoided conversations about sex, loneliness, unmet needs don't disappear. They expand silently. Physical intimacy often reflects this emotional distance. Research in long-term attachment dynamics shows that avoidant individuals can compartmentalize sex from emotional closeness, which leaves their partner feeling used rather than connected. Or sometimes intimacy disappears altogether because true closeness triggers vulnerability, and vulnerability feels unsafe. After 10 years, you may notice parallel lives forming. Shared responsibilities remain, children, finances, social appearances, but emotional partnership fades. You stop sharing dreams. You stop confessing fears. You begin to self-soothe alone. And here is the quiet tragedy. Many couples normalize it. They call it maturity. They call it marriage reality. But deep down, there is grief. The grief of not being fully seen. The grief of loving someone who cannot meet you in the emotional depth you crave. Yet psychology also tells us something hopeful. Avoidance is not cruelty. It is protection learned early in life. Often, avoidant individuals grew up believing that dependence equals weakness, that emotions overwhelm, that self-reliance ensures survival. As Brené Brown reminds us, vulnerability is not winning or losing, it's having the courage to show up. After 10 years, the marriage stands at a crossroads. Either both partners become more extreme versions of their coping styles, or one chooses courage. Real change begins when the avoidant partner recognizes that distance is not strength, when they learn that emotional availability does not erase autonomy, and when the anxious partner learns to regulate without overchasing. 10 years in an avoidant marriage can feel like emotional drought, but drought does not mean the soil is dead. It means water has been withheld. If both partners are willing to face discomfort, to revisit attachment wounds, to have the conversations they postponed for a decade, intimacy can be rebuilt, not as intensity, but as safety. Because ultimately, what happens after 10 years in an avoidant marriage is this. Either two people master the art of coexisting without closeness, or they finally learn that love is not about avoiding pain, but about risking connection despite it.